Coming up on today's show.
A lot of clutter and disorganization is kind of a chicken-egg effect of, do I not feel good so I'm not cleaning up, or do I not clean up and then it makes me not feel good?
What are some of the signals or signs saying, okay, this person seems healthy enough now to move forward?
How long have they been in the house really tells me the potential for stagnant stuff. And she said, you got to get the stuff out of here. And I wish I could have talked to her, because I would have said to her, this isn't going to change. You're going to move in and he'll just start collecting again.
A healthy approach to organizing. Today on Keeping You Organized. Hello and welcome to Keeping You Organized. Today we are going to talk about a little bit different approach to getting organized, where we incorporate a healthy lifestyle attitude. I think we're going to bring in Liz Byrne of alchemyoforder.com out of Colorado. Liz, we're going to have to explain to people how to get healthy in order to get organized better. Isn't that what we're going to talk about?
You got it.
Okay, well, let's dig into this a little bit, because in a typical organizing situation, someone's going to come in and just kind of clear the clutter, and maybe they're done with their job. So how would you approach that differently?
Yeah, I think that's a fine approach. When someone is ready to get organized, they call in a professional, and you guys work elbow to elbow and clear out a lot of clutter. And I just want to open up the perspective that you've really got to feel good before you want to clean up your act, whether one way or another. But I just think that we're not talking enough about how health and vitality is actually really a foundation of changing your life in any way. So I just think that we start with trying to change our life, and I think we should start with feeling really good in our lives.
Well, give me an example of that. How can someone feel better before they start getting organized?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of clutter and disorganization is kind of a chicken-egg effect of, do I not feel good so I'm not cleaning up, or do I not clean up and then it makes me not feel good? And I think there's a lot of guilt and shame about having a lot of clutter. And I just want people to be a little bit more gentle with themselves. And instead of looking around saying, I really should clean this up, I think I'd like to start with, I really should feel better. So what can I do to feel better?
Okay. Do you have some examples of this, like either clients you've worked with, or a situation where you've gone in and you've assessed the situation, and you don't have to use the person's name, but how do you kind of identify when somebody is not feeling healthy?
Sure. Yeah, I've been working with a couple, and they're super lovely, and they've just accumulated a lot of stuff over their lifetime together. They have kids that are ready to go to college, and the wife shared with me through working and uncovering this that she was actually scared to get rid of the clutter because she was worried that her husband would start fighting with her about some other issues that might be more real than the stuff. So the stuff was protecting her from an intimate relationship with her husband on some level, concerned that would actually really wound her, and they would fight about some stuff that she couldn't change as easily as the clutter. And I just think that there's a lot of emotion tied up in our stuff, and I think that is an example of really needing to get healthy and honest with your spouse before you even start a project like this. You know, do you love me enough that if I got rid of our major fighting point, that we would still stay together, so that I'm not keeping this major fighting point just so that I keep the status quo?
Right. Well, obviously you're not a licensed practitioner of psychology or of medical kinds of things. So how do you kind of delicately get into the situation with your client and discuss these things, bring them out?
You don't have to do a lot, because people know themselves better than you think, and sometimes better than they give themselves credit for. So as long as you're just a professional ear trying to help with the task at hand, and I don't advise organizers to dig that much, because it's kind of annoying as a client if you hire someone to help you with their clutter, and they're suddenly asking you about your marital status and relationship, you've just hired them to clear out the clutter. Now, granted, sometimes those things are very tied together, mental health, emotional health, clutter, but that's going to come out from the client's end if it comes out. And sometimes as the organizer, you might assume that there are a whole host of issues happening that we're not talking about. And that's actually okay too. There's a time and a space to go there, but I don't really advise the organizer, as someone who is actually not trained to really hold the space for a very deep problem. I don't advise organizers to kind of dig for that.
So how do you know that you've kind of assessed that and you're healthy enough and you can move on to the actual organizing work? Is there is it just a sense you have? What are some of the signals or signs saying, okay, this person seems healthy enough now to move forward?
Anybody that wants to get organized, I would say, is healthy enough to get organized. I'm not trying to argue that you have to be healthy before you start this work. I am just saying that as a society, we have approached goals in kind of a backwards way. We have said, set the goal, go for the goal, and you'll feel good enough to do it. And I just want to start with really trying to make all of us healthier, happier, more fulfilled before we attack anything in our lives. Tony Robbins likes to talk about having that aha moment when you say, that's it, I am never smoking again. I have had it, I've had it, I've had it. And that's the energy that I like to bring before starting anything, because it's going to be much more successful if you get to your pushing point and you say, that's it, I've had enough, I will not live like this anymore, I demand better for myself. And it's that energy that I want to really encourage people to start with their health before they get to.
And it would seem even some practical things. I mean, I can think about, like, before you want to work on a big project, you want to have a good night's sleep, or, before you go on a run or something like that, or exercise, you want to make sure you have, whatever, carbohydrates, or getting your body, tuned up in the right kind of thing. Is that also kind of what we're talking about here? Just really feeling good so that you can attack, because, dealing with clutter is also a mental issue.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That you've got to eat regularly when you're on the job, whether you're the client or the organizer. You've got to stay hydrated. You're in a marathon for that day. So those very practical tips are very useful.
Well, let's talk about when you go into a client for the first time. What are some of the things that you're saying to them, maybe to not only assess their regular clutter issues, but are you like walking around and talking with them? Do you do some interviewing first? How do you kind of approach that first session?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think there's a lot of magic in that assessment. And that assessment, you're trying to figure out how long they've been in the house, how long they plan to stay in the house, because those two questions from the get-go totally change your information download. How long have they been in the house? The statistic is that we acquire 1,000 pounds of stuff every year we've been in our house. So movers will actually ask you how many years you've been in your house and quickly calculate, well, they've been there 14 years, they're going to have 14,000 pounds of stuff. So how long have they been in the house really tells me the potential for stagnant stuff. I was just in a house this week that just didn't have a lot of stuff. And I didn't ask until the end of the interview, how long have you been here? And she's only been there a year. She had 2 kids, a husband who worked from home. I completely expected just more stuff. It was just very odd. But that tells me that they haven't acquired a lot. How long are they planning to be in the house? Tells me, they're really going to make a commitment to this house. They might expand, they might change things, or they're out of here in 6 months and they just need to make it look good to even put on the market. So those 2 questions are my first questions. And then after that, it's very easy. Every room, I just want to know what is working for you in this room and what is not working for you. The what is working is going to tell me what systems they already set up to manage their life and what they're good at. And it lets them feel good about themselves a little bit. And what's not working is just is just a little minutia that we can
Right.
tweak.
Do you ever, like, when you go into a home, look and see if, like, oh, you could tell this is a hoarder, not just because there's maybe tons of stuff there, but are there some characteristics that kind of key you off on a certain, if someone's an excessive hoarder, or maybe they're just a little unorganized?
Yeah, people self-identify as hoarders more than is accurate, and more than you would think. But so there is a diagnosable scale of hoarding, which you might be familiar with or not, but it's 1 to 5, and the Institute for Chronic Disorganization came up with it. And a 5 is the top, the worst hoarder, and at a 5, your house is deteriorating around you. It's uninhabitable. There are rodents, animals living in the house. It's not a place you would even go into. You would just immediately have your hackles up and you would know, I'm not safe here. But then it goes down, and a 1 can be as mild as sometimes there is trash that does not make it into the wastebasket. But a hoarder typically won't just hire you over the phone without a major crisis point in their life. They're being evicted, they're dying, they're sick, there's a major crisis going on. Otherwise, they're happy in this space. They are embarrassed about it. They don't want any help. They don't want to admit this to anyone. They don't want anyone to see it. So hoarders typically don't just call on their own. And they really resist this work because they've created this around them for some reason. Maybe it's also protection around themselves. But they don't go into this lightly. I have been in a house that I thought had some hoarding tendencies. A man had stacks of newspapers, probably 3 or 4 feet high, with bugs crawling through them in his living area. And he called me because his girlfriend and he were going to start cohabitating. And she said, you got to get this stuff out of here. And I wish I could have talked to her, because I would have said to her, this isn't going to change. You're going to move in and he'll just start collecting again unless he really gets to the bottom of this. He didn't end up hiring me because he didn't like my suggestions, which included getting rid of these newspapers. But he swore that these were really valuable information pieces, access points to him, and that he really needed to make sure there were not any articles in them that he needed to save.
I think dealing with hoarders is kind of a deep situation. We're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, I want to get into that a little bit more, because there's probably some healthy things that a hoarder could do, maybe to assist them to declutter a little bit easier than others. So we will be right back with Liz Byrne from Alchemy of Order out of Colorado in just a moment. Looking to get your home organized but don't know where to start? The newest ebook from Smead will help you with room-by-room organizing tips given by the top professional organizers in the nation. Download your free copy now at smead.com/room. That's smead.com/ROOM. Smead, keeping you organized. We're back on Keeping You Organized now, talking about getting healthy in order to get organized. We're joined by Liz Byrne of alchemyoforder.com in Colorado, a professional organizer. And Liz, before the break, we were talking about dealing with hoarders there's a lot of psychological issues, and psychological health is one thing they have to get over with, get through. But you were kind of alluding to the fact that this hoarder probably wasn't going to change. How do you deal with somebody after you've worked with them and kind of keep them on track so they don't fall back into their old habits, or is that helpless?
Well, the difference between working with an organizer or working with a best friend to clear out your clutter is that the organizer is going to teach you tricks and tools to empower you to keep this up. So when I work with people, I work on 3 different levels, and the first level is always just to edit the stuff. No matter what room we're in, we're editing. And that can also just mean general sorting, but we're identifying what's trash, giveaway, move to a different room, etc. Then the second level is adding structure. More times than not, people are missing shelves. People have outgrown their ottoman space to hide stuff. So we need to increase the structure. So that's kind of step two. Increasing structure, I want to point out, can also mean adding drawer dividers to your drawers or adding hangers to your hangers, but there's some kind of structure that's missing that you've just kind of outgrown. And then lastly, I work on behavior. You know, what behaviors got you to this point? Are you shopping too much? Are you just not getting rid of things fast enough? Do you not have a zone in your house to chuck things that you're holding until you make the donation? What behavior is getting you into this problem? And it's that behavior piece that is the key to talking about, identifying, and then changing so that they can maintain this system.
What would you say your success rate is of converting people? I mean, helping them change for the better. Is it a pretty successful thing? Or are you running into people who just either don't want to change, don't want to get healthy, don't want to deal with that? They just want their place, cleaned up.
Most people I work with are interested in learning and growing. They don't hire me to do it for them. They don't hire me because they're not interested in helping or learning. They want to do better for themselves. But I do equate this, and I know you interviewed Lori Marrero, who was talking about the clutter diet, and I really relate to that idea too, only I consider our organizing kind of like liposuction, and then it's the maintenance of the changing the diet and the fitness routine to kind of keep it up. So I think we have a very high success rate of clients using what we're introducing them to without us successfully. But they do know that every now and again they might need a little tune-up or a little visit from that personal trainer to remind them of some great exercises for their house.
How often do you typically follow up with somebody?
I send cards to my clients. This is actually a great business tip in general, but I have an automated system that will send reminder cards and tips to my organizing clients 3, 6, 9, and 12 months after our work. So it is a reminder of who I am and how they can get in contact with me, but it mostly is a really meaty tip that applies to everybody who has a house about something that they can do to maintain organization.
Well, let's say you're someone who's not ready to hire a professional organizer, but you're kind of overwhelmed. What are some of those healthy tips that you could give someone who just wants to try to get a little more organized on their own? Even if it's as simple as more sleep or whatever. What would be a good way to prep for an organizing project, a do-it-yourself organizing project?
I think you might have just been a little flippant when you mentioned the sleep, but I think sleep is the new frontier of health. And we're hearing a little bit about it. But honest to goodness, if we all got a little more sleep, I think we would all be a lot healthier. I mean, sleep can really contribute to your brain balance and your brain chemistry. It can help with your metabolic balance. I mean, it's actually so important. So although people always say it like it's not that important, getting a little more sleep would make a big difference. And then other things that people can do, I just really advise you to start small. There's a great website called theflylady.com, and the Fly Lady gives very short, like 15-minute assignments for every day. Oh, I'm sorry, it's every week, I think. So she'll say, this week tackle your cutlery drawer in your kitchen. So you have to take everything out, wipe that sucker down, and then go through the process of editing and culling out what you don't need in that cutlery drawer. But when else are we going to ever clean our cutlery drawer? Never, unless we're moving. So I think the flylady.com has got some really great small scale projects for the everyday person who just wants to do a little on their own every day. And then again, just anything you can do to feel good. And that to me is sleep, nutrition, and increasing your absolute joy and pleasure in life. The more you can do to just feel joy and pleasure, I really think will catapult all areas of your life, but even how you make your bed every morning and dress yourself and keep your house.
That is some incredible, healthy advice. We're just about out of time. I want to give you the opportunity to tell people what kind of services you offer. Are you local? Are you national, virtual, and your website and how people can reach you?
Thanks. I am based out of Colorado, but I travel. My website is alchemyoforder.com. I'm like the alchemist, transforming that lead in your life into gold, something much more valuable and shiny. I think I answered all the questions. If anyone wants to reach out, I'd be happy to.
And you do residential and commercial?
I almost exclusively do residential. For commercial, for businesses, I do seminars, but I don't do hands-on at businesses right now.
Great. Well, we will include all that information in our show notes. And Liz, we appreciate your time today. Glad we were able to connect, and hope to see you on another program in the future.
This was fun. Thanks so much.
Great. It's Liz Byrne from alchemyoforder.com today on Keeping You Organized. Coming up next time on Keeping You Organized.
Well, I agree. Trying to get kids to do chores is kind of a constant battle I hear from lots and lots of parents. And so I was formerly a teacher, and so one of the things I do to encourage parents to get their kids to do chores is kind of a lesson plan approach.